Welcome to today's episode of I'm Fine But. I am joined by Caroline from probably one of my favourite brand names I've ever heard, Pink Spaghetti. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, Caroline, tell our listeners who you are and what you do.
So I am a co-founder and franchisor of Pink Spaghetti PA Services. Our virtual assistants support small business owners behind the scenes with a wide range of tasks that they don't have time to do, don't know how to do, or simply don't want to do.
Yeah, because so many of us get into business and we love the thing that gets us into business, but then all the
Yep.
other stuff that comes with it, we don't necessarily want to do or want to learn how
No,
to do or have the
you,
time to do as well.
no, you suddenly find you've got to put your hat on to do your administration and your hat on to do your social media and wearing all these different hats that typically in a corporate world, we could just pick up the phone to somebody.
Yeah. So tell me, Caroline, where did this concept start? Where did it come from?
So my business partner Vicky and I were always the organisers in our sort of family network and friends network. So we knew we were very organised people. We had the typical corporate careers, and then had children. And needed more flexibility. And we both had previously the same sort of business idea to offer people that time, because when you've got kids and you've got the corporate career, time is totally squeezed. So we always had this business idea and started talking more and more about it, and both got to a point where we had an opportunity in both of our lives to take the step. So we went for it, and Pink Spaghetti was born.
So what was the opportunity that got you to think, yes, this is the right time to do it?
It was alcohol on a New Year's Eve. For me, it was the end of a contract. I worked in IT and I had come to the end of a 6-month contract, and Vicky had the opportunity to take voluntary redundancy. And those three things all came together. We got talking. And decided that it was kind of now or never. If we didn't do it now, we'd both get back into different jobs, and it would be a lot harder to do.
And how old were your children at this point when this New Year's Eve
Oh gosh.
happened?
Yeah, so I think my eldest at that point was probably 4. Youngest would have been 1, and we'd known each other for about 3 years. But and Vicky's children were just a little bit younger, both of hers a little bit younger, so
So
very young.
literally in the thick of motherhood then with the toddler, the
In the
baby.
total thick of it. Total thick of it. And I had been traveling, I'd gone and I'd got a flexible contract, but it was still 3 days a week. It was sort of 200 miles away. So we were doing all of the dropping off at nursery early, trying to get other people to look after kids. It was just, yeah, what everybody has to deal with. We needed flexibility.
Yeah, so was that one of the main drivers then for starting the business, that you both needed this flexibility?
It was. We just realized that we had children and we weren't seeing them as much as we wanted to see them, but we both needed to work and wanted to work. We're both incredibly motivated people, but yeah, we just wanted something different, and knew there had to be some way of getting it.
So what were your first steps? You've decided that this is what you're going to go for. And I've never worked alongside someone else. I've always kind of gone, this is what I'm going
Mm.
to do. I'm going to go for it. How was it building something with somebody?
In hindsight, it was about the best journey I could have had. We were both very lucky. But the first thing we did is we put our sensible heads on. And the day after we decided to start a business, after that New Year's Eve, we said, right, we will both go away through January. We'll research what sort of business it would look like, what else is out there, who our client would be, how we would market it, how we would price it. And we put a date in for the end of that January where husbands would take the kids, we would get together and decide, is this a goer? And we got together at that end of January, and it was like we'd both written the same plan. We came up with exactly the same ideas, the same way forward. And it became a no-brainer. This has got to be something that we do. At that point, we didn't know whether it was going to work. And we kind of said, if it doesn't, it's all right. And that very quickly changed. Once you start with your own thing, suddenly the passion comes out, and there was no way we were going to let it fail.
So then how did you get your first clients? What did those first few months look like? Were they quite streamlined? Were they a little bit messy? What did it look like for you both?
It was nothing like we planned it. We researched for months of lots and lots of different things. We actually waited until the September that year, working in the background with procedures and all sorts of things that most of which we never used in the end. We waited for Vicky's youngest at that point to go to school, and we set off. We got our first clients through networking. Um, and actually, our first clients were they were not ideal, and we very quickly changed. Originally we were called home PA services. It was the busy parent that we were looking at, and then suddenly a few busy parents that we looked after and did things for. We realized owned small businesses. And as soon as we started looking at the business side rather than just the things at home, the business started to take off. So it was a bit of a false start in the early days, but we learned so much along the way, which I think is as important as things going right.
Yeah, trying and testing things is how you learn whether stuff works. And I think the majority
100%.
of businesses, the end product or the products they've got now is completely different to the original idea that they had.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we've always been quite good at that.
Your original concept wasn't for business, it was for busy mums to take on their like house admin,
Yeah,
like home life.
it was house admin, absolutely, because it was what we ran our homes like a business. So, working out weekends away, finding a cleaner, finding somebody else that you needed for your house, all these things that when you're working become so difficult. And
Yeah.
even things like errand running, we did a lot in the early stages. I'm very pleased to say we don't do that now. But all the things that you need to run a home that you just either don't have time for or just
Yeah.
don't want to be doing when it's your weekend and you've finally got time with your kids.
Yeah, and it's things like car insurance and home insurance.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to spend your free time going through compare websites, do you? And
No,
not really
no.
100% understanding what you're doing. And it is a lot of admin as a parent on top of
Yes.
working and looking after your children and keeping
It
your home
it
nice and
is.
trying to keep everything
It is.
together.
Absolutely, and there's a massive amount of guilt with that as well. I think females particularly feel like we should be doing it all. We look at other people and think they're managing to do it all. They're not.
Mhm.
And for several decades now, it's been okay to have somebody to clean your house because you understand you want to be doing different things. But for it's taken quite a while to catch up with the fact that it's okay to outsource other things too.
Yeah. So you've had this natural evolution of the business and you've got into a
Mm,
different ideal client. What
yeah.
happened from that point?
So from that point, it was all about expanding. We did that, and really we renamed our business. I think within a year. So instead of Pink Spaghetti Home PA Services, became Pink Spaghetti PA Services, and from that point on, it has just been about consistent growth. In the early stages, social media was just becoming a thing. We're talking 17 years ago now. So we went on presentations to learn about Twitter and all of those sorts of things. So that became a huge part of business development. All the social media platforms carried on networking and really started growing until a couple of years afterwards we decided to then expand more than Vicky and myself. How are we going to do that? And we started then looking at franchising as an option.
So you and Vicky had built up a very successful business. Was that locally or was it nationally?
Yeah. It was locally, although one of our customers was in London, we're in Cheshire, but very much it was local business, yeah, in the surrounding area. So it's something that, although we're virtual, we meet our clients. Typically, we have a relationship with those clients, even though 99% of the work is then done virtually.
Yeah. And I think even, for us, when we decided to franchise, you can see this model that works so
Wow.
well and that you're like, this, I can share this, I can give this to somebody else and they can effectively follow the blueprint to
Yeah.
replicate what we've done. So, how did you find the transition into franchising?
It's hard work. I think we very definitely, what you've said is absolutely right. We recognised that we had something that we could show somebody else how to do. We'd made a lot of mistakes, and I think franchising is as much about stopping other people making the same mistakes as it is telling them what they can be doing. The transition was hard. I think you have to make sure that this everything is a process. You know, it's got to be replicated. Fortunately, with our backgrounds, I had been an IT consultant. I'd trained. I'd written processes, so we were quite confident with that. There was just an awful lot of work, and we just got to a stage where we were confident with the business we'd got, and suddenly we're then learning about this whole new world, which, as far as I was concerned, franchising was McDonald's. So it was really understanding all parts of it to make sure we then get it right for what we hoped with our first franchisee.
And it's learning a new business model. So you
Totally.
build something that you are really confident with, that you know inside
Yeah.
and out, every question,
Yeah.
everything you know, but then you have to then learn a new business model in
Yeah.
order to then be able to get these new people to do your original
Yeah.
business.
Said we started this business because we were the organisers. We loved doing what we did. And suddenly we're moving away from that and doing something that we hadn't done before, and
Yes.
supporting and training other people to do this business. So, yeah, I mean, it's just as the business has developed, it is kind of non-stop change and learning, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it does, when you look down the franchising route, you do get
Mm,
taken away from that original passion that you had.
very much
You
so.
step into a completely different role. So you
Hmm.
expanded your network, you took on
Hmm.
franchisees. How
Yep.
was that journey?
It was a slow and steady journey, very purposefully. Vicky and I are both risk averse. So we very much wanted to get pilot franchise right. In fact, we had two pilot franchisees. They came on knowing that they were pilots. So everything was about us learning from them as well as vice versa. And then we waited about a year and brought on another couple of franchisees. One of those didn't work out very early, didn't work out. It enabled us to look at the sort of person, why did this work and that didn't? So we learned from that. So we started franchising in 2012, and it was in 2014 that we said, right, we're happy, we're now going to replicate, and we started then building into the business that we've got today.
Perfect. So this journey sort of evolved, you'd learnt about it. Was it all running quite smoothly at this point?
Yeah, running smoothly. I mean, our training and development has changed consistently. If I think about the amount that we gave our original franchisees and what training and development for them looks like now, it's completely different. So that evolving process is just carried on. Because things change. So yeah, it's always been steady. That doesn't mean there haven't been, issues along the way, things to sort, things to solve. But generally, yes, it was a steady few years.
Yeah, and it is an evolution of any business that as
Mm,
you progress, you have to change with the algorithm, I suppose. You have to change with all the different aspects of it, to keep the business moving forward. Now, you had quite then a huge life event that happened. What can you tell me
mhm.
a little bit more about what happened?
Yeah, so Vicky and I have been very fortunate as business partners. As I said, we had the same sort of risk appetite, if you like, and the same aims and objectives. We worked really well together, and were incredibly good friends. All our business planning would tended to be done on long walks, and we went away for a weekend in Spain together. It's the first time we'd ever gone away, and in short, she became very ill very quickly. Started to lose her words. And we ended up in A&E in a Spanish hospital, and then transferred. And again, to keep a very long story short, she was diagnosed that day with a brain tumor. Within a couple of days, it was known that it was cancerous. And we had an 11-month period before, sadly, she died. So it was, yeah, quite a, I mean, obviously a massive impact because she was my friend as well as my business partner, but she's also very well known and very big part of the business. So we were not just dealing with us and her family, but also the network, how we supported what was then quite a large network. So there's workload to balance with emotions. So yeah, it was quite a year, and then probably the year after that as well.
Yeah, because that's a huge toll to take on
Mm.
anybody as either a friend or a relative, but then also your right hand man, the person that
Yeah.
you've been through the whole journey with.
Yeah, it impacted every part of, you know, social and business, every part. She was just a massive force, really.
And within your roles that you both had,
Mm.
what was the predominant role that Vicky took on?
So we split our roles very early on in our business to really play to our strengths. So I was the process person, the financial person, the person kind of behind the scenes, and Vicky loved the networking, the marketing side. And unbeknown to us when we started the business, that worked really well together. I never liked to do things like interviews and all of that sort of thing. I was the introvert, she was much more of the extrovert, and that suited us down to the ground. So that was a massive change because suddenly I've had to really change. I talk about with my franchisees coming out of your comfort zone, and I've had to do that with bells on. Because those are really important skills in the business, and they're just not things that I ever did.
Yeah, and it's a very hard skill to learn when it's not your natural, not ability, but your natural personality, I suppose.
Absolutely, and it is something you've got to learn. It can be learned, but it doesn't feel like you can learn it. But now I'm 3 years on, I can say it can be learned. Doesn't mean it's still my first choice to go networking and to do those sorts of things, but it is part of the job, and I still love what I do. So it's something that I have had to get comfortable in doing.
Yeah, and what a shift in the business as well that you've had to then, have you had to have somebody else come on to help you with that workload, or did you take the whole thing on yourself?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And actually, when Vicky was diagnosed very quickly, but then put on some drugs that for the couple of months meant that she was herself completely normal before then treatment and the progression of the cancer. And actually, that gave us a couple of months to kind of make sure that the business was taken in the direction that we wanted it to be. And those were difficult conversations. But the first thing and immediately was we brought in two senior franchisees to support the network because immediately myself and Vicky weren't going to be able to do all of the support that we offer. And we're very proud of the amount of support we offer our franchisees. So that was put in place really quickly so that the immediate workload was dealt with. And then we interviewed together our franchise development manager because we knew that longer term we had to have somebody in the business to take on that role. And we kind of danced around the fact that you know, it, we talked about it being the future, and actually, it was a lot sooner than we had hoped. But we made that decision together, and I have to say, the person we brought in, who's now been in the business just over 3 years, was the right decision. It was one of the last decisions Vicky and I made together. She's perfect, absolutely brilliant for the network, and has been absolutely right. So in the long term, it's that has been a real positive for the business. It's a real shame as to why it came about like that.
Yeah. And what effect has that had on you personally?
Um, well, I mean, I can't overstate the the effect on me personally. Um, I I think the emotion is huge. The responsibility for the network is huge. I have taken that on. Making sure that we carry on with the values that Vicky and I both would have had has been huge. And now developing somebody within the business to take on that role, which she has done superbly. I think the first year after Vicky's death, the workload was immense. It was absolutely immense. I actually brought in a business coach so that I could start to look at how I could do things a little bit differently, and I needed that. Even to practice what I preach, delegate a little bit more. And our franchise development manager that we brought in has given me the ability to do that. So after about a year, it started, life started getting easier again. But of course, it's tough while it all happens.
And practicing what you preach is probably one of the hardest things because it's so difficult to,
Mm.
when your business is your baby and you feel the weight of that responsibility on there, to then put into place boundaries, to put into place delegating to other people, to
Mhm.
trust other people as well with something that you've built.
It's so difficult. And yet, all the small business owners that we help, we're asking them to do exactly the same things. You don't need to be doing all the different jobs yourself. Usually, people are control freaks because they've built really good businesses, they've got great ideas, and it is one of the most difficult things. But also boundaries. I was working every hour, and that's the sort of small business owner that we meet, but actually they need to say enough is enough. I want my balance. I want the work life balance. I want to spend time with the family. So things can be delegated. It does not need to be you. And I definitely have practiced what I've preached.
Yeah, it does. It's a hard thing to do. And
Mhm.
did you get to a point where you almost were you conscious of that, or did you have one sort of epiphany moment where you were like, I can't do this anymore, like I am at the end?
I think it was the business coach. I think as soon as somebody comes in and just sort of questions, but why can't, who could do this? You just suddenly think, why have I not thought about this? This is how we, tell other people to run their business and how to delegate. I think I was so far in it and had dealt with such an unbelievable couple of years at that point that you just sometimes need somebody else to spot the really obvious.
Yeah, you do. You need somebody looking from the outside, sometimes inwards, to
Yeah.
point out the things that really are right in front of your
Yeah.
face that you don't always
Yeah.
see because you're so busy looking at everything else.
Absolutely. And as soon as the business coach helped me start working on my business, instead of just in it, it was transformational overnight.
And having somebody else as well, because a lot of, our listeners will run businesses solo or they are running it, self-employed or as a sole trader.
Mm.
And actually seeing that you can bring other people in to support you without taking anything away from you. Because I
Mhm.
know as women, we like to shoulder a lot, and so many women
Absolutely.
do. So
Yeah.
to have someone else come in and just go, I can take this off for you. If you don't like this part,
Mhm.
I'll do it. And
Yeah.
that's a big thing to admit as well.
It's a huge thing to admit, but actually, as virtual assistants, when we tend to start working with a business who then recognizes that that's what can happen, those businesses grow because people are
Yes.
doing things that they don't love, they're not particularly efficient or quick at. It's stopping them doing often the revenue growing things in their business. So by delegating, instead of being admitting defeat and go, oh, I should be able to deal with this, actually, we work with growing entrepreneurial businesses because they recognize that by getting this done by somebody else, they can grow their business and actually enjoy their business a lot as well.
Yeah, and when I first started in business, I remember speaking to like a friend of my sister, and he was like a business advisor. And I'd always tried to do everything myself. I'd like built the website, I'd done the logo, I'd
Mm.
done all the bits and pieces myself. And I sat and had a coffee with him, and he told me the story about the rowers for an Olympic team. I don't know if you've heard this
Ah,
one, and they are trying to win a race and they can't work out why. And somebody says, it's simple. We just need to make the boat go faster. And
I run my business with that phrase, and I have to say, I've never heard anybody else say it. We say, will it make the boat go faster? Will it make the boat go faster? If it won't, don't do it. It's as simple as that. And it's incredible.
And to have that as as a philosophy as the person that's running the business to go, actually, is
Hmm.
what I'm doing going to make the business move forward? Yes, it might
Yeah.
be something that is it's needed to be done. It's a priority within the
Hmm.
business, but actually you as the business owner, if you can offset all that onto somebody else and you can do the things to make the boat go faster, it
Yep.
actually just switches your mindset around to go, okay, I don't need to automate this. I don't need to be doing that. I've got someone else that
Hmm.
can take that off my hands for me.
Absolutely. And it is. It's amazing, and we speak to so many business owners who don't have time to invoice people. They don't have time to answer customer queries that come in via email or to keep up with their social media messages. And you just think, turn it on its head. This is why you're in business. So just get somebody else to get those bits done for you, so you can just do what you're great at.
Yeah. So, Caroline, if we've got any listeners who are in the
Hmm.
throes of the middle of business and they are thinking, everything that we've just discussed is me, I am run ragged, I am trying to work flexibly around my children, but it feels overwhelming, it feels too much. Is there one piece of advice that you could pass on to them?
You're running a small business, outsource. And I would say we are experts at outsourcing, but we're also not over salesy. Get in touch with somebody and just start talking about the things that you love, that you hate, and get somebody who's expert in this area to talk through how you could outsource these different tasks. You're never going to get any pressure. If it's not right for you now, you might know somebody that it is right for, or you might have it as a strategy for you, sort of 6 months or a year further down the line in your business. But don't see it as a failure, see it as an absolute superpower for your business.
Because I do think when we were building and we were growing, we almost needed to outsource before we were financially ready to do that. And
Very difficult.
yeah, it's a really tricky phase to be in because you almost know I need to do this, but I'm not quite financially there yet. And
Mm,
I see that a lot with businesses that they need to outsource it, but they feel scared to do that. And I know that we took a bit of a jump a few times. It
yeah.
it worked on a couple of occasions. On a couple of occasions, we were like, we could have really saved revenue on that.
Hmm.
What advice would you give to somebody if they are thinking I could probably do with, outsourcing my email automations or my
Hmm.
funnel to somebody else, but they don't feel like they've got the revenue yet to do that?
I think again, explore it, because it could be that there's just small parts that you could outsource. It doesn't have to be, huge. It can be really starting small. I heard a piece of advice that somebody had got from a business coach the other day that actually said people in business within 5 or 6 weeks almost can't afford not to outsource because they're not good enough at everything and they are spending time they don't need to be. And by turning it around, they will grow faster. So it's almost take a step back to leap forward. Sometimes you've got to invest in your business, and that might just be the way.
And if anybody's tried to do, for example, Meta business ads and you've wasted a week of your life on that
100%.
system, it's one of those things that you could go, actually, I could pay somebody else to set this up for me correctly in the right way. And my time will
Yeah,
be spent making the boat go faster.
absolutely right. Yeah. And people do fear it, but it is transformational. It makes it far more enjoyable to run a business as well.
Amazing. Well, please tell our listeners, Caroline, if they want
Mhm.
to find you, learn a little bit more about Pink Spaghetti, fantastic name, where can they find you?
So pink-spaghetti.co.uk. I have to say, because of the name, if you Google us, just put Pink Spaghetti in or search Pink Spaghetti on any socials, you will find us. And if you're a small business owner that wants to talk, there's all the contact information on the website. And if you're somebody that's in a corporate career and feel like you would be interested in finding out what life would be like as a virtual assistant, as we are, then again, the website has got opportunities there to look at the franchise and ask for a perspective.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Caroline. It's been lovely to speak to you.
It's been really nice to speak to you too. Thank you.
You've just listened to I'm Fine But. If you're unsure about business or what really matters to you right now, why not take our free core values course? It's linked in the show notes and it's a brilliant place to begin. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and you can follow us online at all your favourite social media platforms at Baby Beats UK. Until next time, I'm Rose and I'm fine. But honestly, we're all just figuring it out.